While I definitely can't say that this show is a very well-kept secret, it's definitely one you're going to want to know more about. Let's talk about it. So today on Dynamic Entry, we're going to be talking a little bit about Secret Level, a show presented to us by Amazon, which is a collection of small short stories and vignettes exploring different video game worlds and the games themselves in a way. And man, I gotta say, I went in with like medium expectations and I really loved the majority of the project. There's a lot to talk about as far as the different choices that they made and the different games that were represented within the 10 episode run, I want to say. Oh wow, 14 episodes.
Yeah, overall, this was a really fantastic experience. It was kind of like out of nowhere thing. Like we had just talked about it coming out, maybe like a week before it came out, and then it came out, and we both binged it on our own times. And it's really easy to watch in one sitting. It's only about maybe collectively an hour 45, maybe 2 hours, because most of them are pretty short. There are some that are like 20 minutes, whatever, but some are that are just 7 to 8 minutes, that little realm right there. So if you wanted to, you could knock it out within a night.
Secret Level opens up with an episode dedicated to Dungeons and Dragons, but from there seems to follow predominantly electronic games, things like Shifu, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marines, and a myriad of others. I gotta say though, it was ultimately surprising with how they decided to approach certain things. I think the most standout of the episodes would be the Pac-Man episode for me. It was weird and kind of avant-garde in its way, but really beautiful. Like this weird maze runner kind of survival horror thing where this entity we don't know a lot about is being forced to dive further and further into this labyrinth filled with things that are trying to kill it, but ultimately represent the game flow and how you are stuck in this endless maze and you're fighting ghosts and demons and you can continue. It's a whole thing, man. Like I really like how they represented the mechanics of the game through the storytelling and ultimately how it ended. It was a real treat.
Yeah, it was like a nice little out of nowhere thing, and it did recently get picked up for season 2 after this was finished. And the way they did it was pretty interesting too, the way they released it. They did like the first 8 episodes 1 week, and then a few days later they did the next 8 episodes or so, which I guess kind of expanded upon the shelf life of it. But I thought maybe they might do a weekly, and I don't know if it would benefit further if it were to do that, like the next release that they have. Maybe if they did that but have like longer episodes, that would be cool.
Aside from that though, I think another one of the standout episodes for me, to no surprise of anyone who watches this channel, I'm sure, would be the Armored Core episode, because Keanu was on it. And also, I'm a big Armored Core fanboy, so it was just preem to see all of that beautiful next glory on the screen like that. I will say that particular episode, and a few of the other ones listed, like the Shifu one for instance, are a bit short for my taste. However, I understand with the amount of budget that was provided, which has to be a lot because the quality is just top notch. There are still limits, and just as well, you have to be able to make certain decisions with like timing and such. So I say it's worth it for what we were able to get.
But who knows how long they spent on this, because like Chris mentioned, it did have a lot of stuff in there where you're like, damn, this really is on this show right now, and they did a lot of work. Like the Warhammer one was crazy. I'm not like the biggest Warhammer fan. I've learned just what I've learned through Chris, and seeing that story was crazy and mind-blowing. Some of the stuff that they were doing, like the eye when they zoomed in on it and the soul was opening up, a lot of the animation like that, where I'm like, damn, this was a lot of work that they put into this. And it makes you wonder like how much work is put into cutscenes for games in general.
If there's one other thing I'd want to say is, man, I was not expecting the Concord episode. I ended up liking that one quite a bit, and it made me wonder as I sat back with the credits going if that could have been a more palatable approach for that narrative setting and the characters, even the designs. Everything that they showed there was fine, and that kind of like Pirates Against the World / Guardians of the Galaxy feel that was there was really nice. I enjoyed it myself. I don't know how to process that with, the fact that Concord went the way that it did, but it's interesting when you look at the grand scheme of things, in my opinion.
But yeah, the ones that did go the extra mile, I think it helped them. And for properties that I wasn't familiar with, like New World, I wasn't familiar with that game at all. But seeing this story, I'm like, oh, okay, I get like how the world works. You know, you can't die, and it's about like conquering kingdoms and all this stuff like that. So I think if they do more stories within games that aren't as popular, I know we have to have the big names to get people to watch the show. But smaller properties like that, I think that they could benefit really well from this. But yeah, outside of like the Sifu one, I didn't have really too many complaints with the ones we got. Maybe some of them could have been a bit longer, but who knows how much time they were given to work on it or how seriously those companies took it. Like, hey, this program's reaching out to you. They want to have an animated short to be part of their series that they're going to have Amazon. They're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Just have our like lower level animators work on something and just submit it, whatever. So moving along, some of the properties that I would like to see get stories. Borderlands, I feel like they could do a really good job of something within their realm. That'd be pretty interesting. And then like, it's hard to do too big of properties because some of them people get so like, oh, don't mess with my game. Don't do something within the world of it. It's gonna mess with the lore too much.
Well, I guess if we're just throwing it out there, I'm gonna just say maybe a Warframe episode wouldn't be so bad with how expansive and glorious their setting is. Or Bloodborne, maybe The Forest, Don't Starve, or any of those other survival horror games.
A Dishonored one would be kind of sick. Something within that world would be very cool. Somebody who maybe has the same powers as, Corvo had, or something like that. Just like that world of that. And then Bioshock. I get a feeling of Bioshock in some of them. I forgot which one it was, but it felt very Bioshock Infinite-esque, like that world.
Outer Worlds?
Maybe Outer Worlds. Yeah, Outer Worlds is actually a pretty good one too. I like that one. So something like that, something where it has a rich world.
I mean, actually, one thing I thought of when watching it and going through the first episode, the Dungeons and Dragons episode, was I would have liked to see how they envisioned the worlds of other board games. You know what I mean? Maybe like a Candyland one, or maybe a Monopoly one, something of that vein.
And then if I wanted to do like something kind of like small and out there that like many people would know about, probably Tomba. You know what I'm saying? Love Tomba. I always mention it on the show, but something within Tomba would be great just for me personally, just because like I grew up playing that game. Something like that where it introduces the masses to the property itself. So Tomba would be pretty sick. But just stuff like that. You have to have a good balance between like small properties and big properties. But those would be like the main ones that I would want to see. And I do look forward to seeing what they're going to do with the next season that we get.
But also, I like what Nate mentioned too. The idea of smaller properties or maybe lesser known niche properties getting the spotlight is definitely something I think I'd be a bigger fan of. There was this really cool game I played a long time ago called No Depth Too Deep. That'd be something I'd be interested in seeing in an episode like Secret Level, Subnautica. I mean, there's just so many options. If there were any changes I'd make, I probably would be the same mind as Nate, where I would do maybe a weekly release. Like, hey, here's our episode or 2 episodes for this week, but they are longer format, going a minimum of 15, 20, or 25 minutes. Hell, do a 40-minute and do maybe 8 to 10 episodes for the season, but longer episodes as a whole. I'd be okay with that too, because it means we just get more time to be fully immersed in whatever worlds you take us to. One note though, and I'm gonna just be flat out and say this, the last episode is the worst episode. Just the pure, no holds bars commercialization Sony episode. As somebody who buys pretty much only Sony products after my PC, it sucked. It was just not fun. The whole play together advertisement idea has its place, and I don't think its place is to take up the slot that could have been used on another game telling their story, or another dev house getting to see their vision on the big international screen in that way. Food for thought, But past that, I think that the project as a whole was handled pretty damn well, and as long as they don't make missteps like that one, shit, I'm invested for the long haul. Again though, like board games, like what was it, Mousetrap? Is that the name of that old board game?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a fucking cool one. You think it wouldn't, but think about it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, what did you think about the Secret Level episodes? Were you a fan of what they presented, or did you dislike what was projected on that digital screen? You can let us know down below, or share your thoughts on what you'd like to see as far as Season 2 is concerned. Do you have an idea of what they might use or what's popular? Let us know down below. You could also check out our other social media pages. We got a TikTok for as long as that's around, as well as an Instagram and a few other things, as well as other videos in the catalog. So, you've got plenty to look forward to. And we'll see you around in the next one. Peace.